So there is something known as a project triangle, where you sort of measure financial budget, schedule, and scope. A simple way to understand this concept is to use this project triangle. In any project, there are fixed schedules, that's time scales, and a fixed budget. Then the only thing that is left that can be adjusted is scope. So your budget is fixed, your schedule is fixed. So the only place where you can what? Manage or maneuver is a scope. So a scope, therefore, is anything which is not but a deadline or financial budget. So this could include what? Modifying the project objectives, modifying the functionality, for example, modifying, for example, the scale of deployment. So it's the financial budget, the time schedule, and the scope that form the project triangle. And there must be a trade-off that can be made amongst the three. And this trade-off is within the scope. So yes, you may define that you want to do this A, B, C, and D, but then if the budget would not cover that or the time will not allow that, then you may have to look at what you want to do again and maybe reduce it. An important thing are the system interfaces or the boundaries that must be established. The boundaries might be fixed, which is a design constraint, or they might allow modifications to achieve a business advantage. For example, if an insurance quote can be prepared and transferred to a customer in seconds rather than hours, then real opportunities will be generated. So it might be important to include consideration of the customer environment. If you know the interfaces, it helps to establish the system data requirements. So you have to identify all the interfaces with other systems. Establish the key data that is going to be passed across the interfaces. Look for what is called natural boundary, and then consider if there is any benefit in altering an existing interface, and determine if any other projects are within those interfaces and that can be used. So, how do you identify a project aim? We have said already that a project should have one major aim and several objectives that support the aim. So, for example, to improve our customer experience of ordering our products, to develop and evaluate an artificial neural network to predict stock market indices. So these are examples of our project aims. But what about the objectives? Again, so right now, you are already in a position to begin to think about your own final year project and the aim, what you want to do. What about your objectives? In a nutshell, the objectives will specify the success criteria for a project. So basically, the things you need to do in order to achieve your aim. And don't confuse the two. A project should have one major aim. A project should have one major aim, right? That specifies what you are trying to achieve. The objectives, on the other hand, are the things you need to do in order to achieve that aim. So they are your success, they are the criteria for measuring the success of your project. The benefits you obtain from a project and the costs are dependent on the levels set for the objectives. So this diagram should help explain this much clearer. So we call this the objective hierarchy. So at the very top, you have your aim. Then this aim is supported by, in this case, 3 objectives. Objective A, Objective B, and Objective C. Objective A is supported by Objective A.1, Objective A.2. Objective B have no supporting objectives. Objective C is supported by Objective C.1 and Objective C.2. And Objective C.1 is supported by Objective C.1.1 and Objective C.1.2. So you can see a breakdown, a hierarchical breakdown of what? Your project aim. So let's look at an example of a project on an objective hierarchy. So your aim is to improve web interfaces for customers. So that's your aim, your general aim. Under that comes your objectives. One, you can achieve this aim by improving customer satisfaction, making this usable, the interface more usable, and then making it available. So there are three supporting objectives for this aim. Your aim, remember, is to improve what? Web interface for customers. So you can achieve this by improving upon what? Customer satisfaction, usability, and availability of the web interface. Now, if you take the customer satisfaction, how do you achieve that? There are two supporting objectives to that. By providing product information and by providing customer feedback. Usability, we have no supporting objectives. By the availability, how do you achieve that? By maintainability and reliability. So, maintainability, ensuring that if there's a problem, there's always a resolution. And then updating information as and when required. The availability, again, is supported by reliability, meaning that your system is reliable, that it is there when the user needs it. So by doing all of these things, you would achieve your aim of improved web interface for customers. Now, when you write your objectives, there must be what is known as, there's a term called SMART. Your objectives must be what? SMART. It means that these objectives must be specific, they must be measurable, assignable, realistic, and time-related. So you just don't think of objectives and write anything down. Make sure that these objectives are specific. They are specific things you will do, that you can measure them and say, yes, it is successful, we have achieved it. It's assignable, they are realistic, and they are time-bound. So your SMART objectives will give you a target to aim at, the responsibility for ensuring and monitoring that the targets are achieved. They also provide a point of reference for you, and also a proof of agreement that can be used at the point of delivery. So if you have these your objectives written down carefully and well, then it forms a sort of a contract or agreement with your stakeholders or your customer, and say, look, this is what we said we'll do, and we have done it. So, as an example of a SMART objective, the average time for a customer to order a single item to be input by an existing customer will be reduced from what, 2 minutes down to 1 minute by the end of November. So this is an example of what a SMART objective. You can see that it's specific, it's time related, it can be measured, it can be measured. You can compare this to the time taken for customers to place orders will be significantly improved. What does this mean? You will improve it significantly. What is that? So if you compare the two, you see the difference. So with the second one, you can see that it's ambiguous. It's an ambiguous objective. Most often, you'll be required to communicate with senior management. And there are a number of things you need to discuss with your senior management. One is to discuss the feasibility report with senior management. You'll be able to identify, in the discussions, who is going to provide the budget for the project. In these discussions, you should check that the project is aligned with the organization's strategy. Also determine if proposed functionality and deployment within the organization is correct. And get agreement to the project's objectives and discuss the stakeholder value and project cost. Now, finally, how do you select your student project? So having discussed all of these things, this is the time for you now to begin to think of your student project. What are you going to do for your final year project? Where do you get your ideas? One is your personal interest. What interests you? What drives you? Remember, this final year project is something that is going to help you in the future, particularly if you're looking for your first job. In many interviews, they would ask you what you did for your final year project. So you have to think carefully about it. What are your interests? Look around you. What are the problems there? Talk to your lecturers. Let them give you ideas. Look at books, journals, magazines. Talk to friends, people in the department, other people, your parents, anybody. Talk to them. Look around you. When you are coming to work, to school, what do you see on the way? What do you think will be done to improve it? All of these can form sources of ideas for a final year project. Now, once you've got the idea, you need to write your proposal. Actually, there are two forms of proposal that are required to be writing at this stage. The first are called the first cut proposal, which is just maybe a paragraph or half a page of what your idea is, what you intend to do. This you can discuss with your tutor or your lecturer to get the go-ahead. Once it's been agreed, your first cut proposal has been agreed that it's a good thing, that it's doable, then you move on to writing your formal proposal. So what must go into this formal proposal? And this is your major assignment for this course. So, of course, you have the project title. Then you need to provide a background to this project, a background to the problem. And then you need to define the problem. Also then state the aim and the objectives. Define the scope and limitations of your project, what it will do and what it will not do. And then finally, provide the proposed content, what will go into, what things would you be addressing. There's something that is missing from the slide, which you should include. So you've defined the problem, you've stated the aim, the objectives. You've stated the scope, limitations. What is your proposed solution? How are you going to go about solving the problem? Before your proposed content, what will go into your final year project? Chapter 1, what will you talk about there? Chapter 2, what are you going to do? Chapter 3, what will you do? Chapter 4, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that will go into your final year project proposal, which will be your major assignment. This is something that we'll be discussing on a week-by-week basis with your tutor. So, to summarize, we have looked at how you select your project, and this information should set you on the path to start thinking about your own final year student project, and also to begin to start working on the individual assignments that you have to submit at the end of the semester. We've also looked at reasons for IT investment management, proposal selection, and then the contents of a feasibility study. So, this brings us to the end of this session. In the next session, we'll be looking at what research methods. I hope you have enjoyed this. Thank you.